I would like to begin with a small update about my English, uh, especially about my pronunciation. I think that even though I'm uh, obviously not improving on day-by-day basis, I still think that this is hugely beneficial for me, both in terms of speaking uh, at all in English and the fact that this forces me into uh, finding the correct pronunciation for some words that just sounded weird when I spoke them and then heard them on the audio. So I'm very happy with my decision to record myself. Obviously, uploading it on YouTube is just pretty much worthless. I'm doubting that this will lead anywhere. I'm that much aware of the situation that is on YouTube, but still, I just thought that it's few seconds, a minute at most to upload a video, and maybe someone somewhere will actually listen to this or not, maybe not my current series of videos about Neverwinter Nights, because obviously not everyone is interested in a game that came out 20 years ago and is from a rather niche genre. But I think I have other uh, themes that I could talk about, things that I've experienced that I love to do still to this day. So we'll see about the direction I'm going to take this. Then I wanted to go back a little bit to the thing that I was talking about in the previous one, which was graphics uh, and video games. So, focusing on those, I feel like some developers are sacrificing what I think is way more important for a great game. Um, I just don't think that there will be many games coming out these days that would have the longevity of games that came out 20 years ago. I've mentioned these in one of my first videos. Games like Knights of the Old Republic, Neverwinter Nights, Baldur's Gate, uh, especially Planescape Torment. That game, the graphics are on the level of the first Baldur's Gate game, and yet it's one of the most complex games with one of the most detailed characters portrayed in such a way that felt real, that felt that they could be beings that you could meet outside and actually have a conversation with them, because it was just such an elaborate work of fiction, and yet there were certain elements of philosophy, questions about meaning of life. Uh, you are basically playing and a living undead in that game. It's one of the most fascinating games in just in terms of story. The gameplay is basically the same as Baldur's Gate. There is not that much to talk about. I'm not saying that it's boring at all. I love it, but uh, the main element of that game, the main thing that drew me in, was definitely the story and the characters. And that's a game that was made literally more than 20 years ago. That's just, I never felt that invested in a story that would come out even in the past decade. The last time would probably be Mass Effect, and we all know how that ended up. So yeah, I am now going to finish the original campaign. Hopefully, I think it's more than, I wouldn't say overstayed its welcome because I love it so much, but I've done quite a few of these videos. Not all of them are focused on the playthrough or walkthrough or speak through, but yeah, the original campaign is done with this one, and then there are the two main DLCs that I will definitely talk about. So the last time we finished exploring the Creator Race ruins, traveling a bit in time and space, planting some trees, and then getting our hands on the second Word of Power. We'll get a visit from Hedrelin, a bit of information on both the Creator Races and the Words of Power, and then it's off to Moonwood. There is a small orc and giant problem, so we clean that up. Then we have some directions we can take this to. We are going to meet some dragons, and this location is actually filled up with dragons. You'll meet most you'll ever meet in this game in this location. Um, Neverwinter Nights really did not hold back on dragon encounters, comparing it to the previous titles. Baldur's Gate, they are way more rare. Uh, Here, you get to meet both friendly dragons. Well, at the beginning, they are all willing to talk. Some of them are just pure evil. Some of them are not exactly friendly towards the other races of the Forgotten Realms, but they won't just plot some world-ending scenario. And then there are those dragons that are just pure good, uh, willing to help. And in this location, we find out that one of the oldest, most powerful dragons is attempting to steal the eggs of the other dragons living in this area. We don't know his purpose yet, um, but obviously through investigation and talking to either some prisoners of the fire giants that ally themselves with the ancient evil dragon, or just talking to the other dragons that are in need of our help in disposing of these giants, we get to find out his plan, his reason for doing what he is doing. We find out that one of the dragons already fell to the subordinates of the evil dragon, and some of the eggs were already stolen. The other two dragons are still able to guard their eggs and their lairs, but they are in constant danger. So one of the good dragons, a gold dragon, uh, she asks us to take care of this evil dragon. So that's what we can do, or we can ally with him, steal the eggs, and then we can receive the word of power that he is guarding. he has no actual need for it because it can't serve the purpose he needs it to. So there are again more than one ways of dealing with this situation. Um, the last location of this part of the third chapter is the Fire Giant's lair. We can find the king of them. We can find just a diary of a frost giantess, of a princess, frost giants, who was forced to marry this king, uh, of their mistreatment and the decision she makes to make the final escape from her captors. So that's just a small um, the journal. Just we don't even get to meet her, obviously, because of what she decided to do. But it's just this small information, just this small snippet that makes the world feel a little bit more alive. So we go through the Fire Giant's lair, we dispose of some slots, we get to meet one of the dragons that the evil ancient dragon Claude brought up to basically move himself into a new body because his old one is already failing, his magic is failing, so he needs a new body, and that's the reason why he was trying to steal the axe. And obviously, me as a goody two shoes, uh, I always choose to dispose of him. We can talk to him first, get some information, but if we just can't agree with what he's doing, then there is a fight, and this is by far the most difficult fight in, I would say, in the entirety of the original campaign. He is very powerful, and we are not exactly at our strongest yet. So, very hard, without cheats. It's an extremely difficult fight. So, once we dispose of him, loot his lair, find the Word of Power, it's time to return back to Aringand and give him the Words of Power. And then we find out that Neverwinter, the city, is under attack of Eribat and Luskan forces. So it's our turn to fight back. We need to dispose of Arbat. We need to find the evil sorcerer Mogrim, who's a servant of Morak, the Lizard Queen. And we have some small quests along the way. We meet Hedrelin, who's being kept a prisoner because obviously the side of the city can't trust anyone after Herbet betrayed the city. You can have some quite interesting conversations with Lord Nasher, who's the leader of Neverwinter, and Arin regarding Arbet and what she has done, why she has done that. You can offer your opinion. It doesn't really matter, unfortunately. We'll get a conclusion to her tale in the second big DLC. But for now, we get to explore a little bit of the city core. We can get basically three quests. One from the leader of the defending forces. We need to dispose of some catapults and wizards that are controlling siege golems that are invulnerable till we kill those wizards. And one of the ex-girls of a brothel that was turned into a refugee center. She's missing her sister, little sister, so it's up to us to try and find her in the war zone. So that's what we do. We explore the war zone. We can do a stealth way through a smuggler's route of an old man that used it to get some children out of the city before the forces surrounded it. Or we can just use the fighting straightforward approach, and we get to meet Arbeth. If we have finished the Arbeth story from the second chapter, we get to persuade her to surrender herself. She still knows quite a lot about the Luskan forces, so she can save some lives. Then we get to kill Mogrim and secure the last word of power. Now, when we go back, and if we saved Arbeth, we can have one last chat. We can profess our feelings towards each other with a male player character, and the key to persuading her to saving her was the ring that she gave us at the end. With the conversation regarding that ring was an indication of her possible betrayal. Fortunately, we couldn't do anything about it back then. We can talk to Lord Nasher and Arin again if they were both guilty partially of what she did because of what happened to Atlantic, who was just a naive fool following in Dester's steps. And then we get to talk to her, to Hedrelin again. We find out that Morak is awake now, and the only thing we can do to stop her is to destroy her. So we get our things straight with Aribeth, and then we continue into the sanctum that is underneath Neverwinter. It's been there the entire time, just no one was able to find it. And we get to fight two dragons at once because one would be too little. And once we do that, we get the access to the inner sanctum. We get to meet an alternative version of Aribeth who has not fallen to Morak. She's from an entirely different dimension, but Morak is still capable of putting that dimension in danger just by her existing. So we get to talk to her. She gives us a powerful amulet um, to help us fight Morak. That was her mission. Unfortunately, the spell that was able to send her into this dimension, into our dimension, is failing now. So she passes on the torch, and it's up to us to fight with Morak. We get one last conversation with our henchman, and if it's I don't know about the male henchmen. I know about Sharvin and Linu that both can lead to some form of a relationship. It's not nearly as elaborate as it's in Baldur's Gate 2, but there are still hints. And then we fight Morak. She isn't exactly dead hard, nowhere near cloth, but she's invulnerable until we hurt one of the acolytes that are performing a ritual behind her. She will cast everything she can, and once we deal with the acolyte, then we can kill her, and then a portal appears It was Hadrian who saved us from the failing dimension of the Words of Power that, with Marak's death, collapsed on itself. So we needed her help to get out of there. We get to have one last chat with Hadrian, and she basically says that her time now is over and that the world belongs to the younger races. So it's her time to go. And we get some more information about the great races, the world slaves, and that's the end of the fourth chapter and the end of the original campaign. I mentioned it before, but it seems like some people don't really enjoy it, which I find surprising. I love the DLCs, but there is something special about the original campaign. I haven't not played the DLCs until much later, so maybe it's nostalgia talking, but it was always just such a special game for me, and especially the original campaign. The writing, there is something different. I'll try to think a little bit about it and talk about it in the next video. This one is already so long, but yeah, that's the end of the original campaign. Next are the DLCs. Also, I've noticed this in this one video. I say probably quite a lot, so I'll need to add that to my list of get rid of it. Next time, it's the DLC.